Alrighty, welcome back to the pill, y'all. We have a hearty dose this week, so let's dive in.
First, we'll kick things off with Clayful, a startup that helps students aged 8 to 18 connect with mental health experts within 60 seconds, fresh off a $7 million seed round led by Reach Capital.
Next, stick with us for a breakdown on Letterhead AI, the company that automates the creation, maintenance, and growth of newsletters using existing content. Hot off $5.3 million of seed funding led by Las Olas Venture Capital and Rain Ventures.
And lastly, we'll close out this week's dose with Sunnyside, an app that's leveraging AI to promote mindful drinking habits amongst users, and their recent $11.5 million Series A led by Motley Fool Ventures.
A delightful December dose for the pilgrims. So away we go.
Let's get into it.
You see here, kid? You gotta just go for it. Don't think about what comes after or what came before. You just gotta bend your knees, take a deep breath, and jump.
This is Venture Pill, your weekly dose of startups and venture capital. We break down recent startups in the news and interview founders and investors to help you stay informed in the evolving world of venture. Okay, leading things off on this week's dose, we have Clayful, which raised a $7 million seed round led by Reach Capital, including participation from OVO Fund, Google Latino Founders Fund, Wisdom Ventures, and more. The startup helps students aged 8 to 18 connect with mental health experts within 60 seconds.
Wow, 1 minute. That's pretty cool. We'll get into the product here in a little bit, but a little bit of the background story first. CEO and co-founder Maria Barrera noted that the country's mental health system was broken when she read a New York Times article about rising suicide rates among 8-year-olds.
It's crazy.
That's just crazy. After talking to teachers, kids, parents, counselors before launching this company, she realized that schools are access points for kids' mental health services, and counselors had neither the time nor the capacity to match the growing numbers of kids needing this support.
Right, and doubling down on that to get further into the issue that the startup's aiming to address, the American School Counselor Association, the ASCA of course, suggests at least one school counselor for every 250 students, which already seems like a pretty light ratio. Unfortunately, there's only one school counselor for every 408 students, according to recent research, which we'll link in the show notes. Additionally, in 2019, 1 in 5 students reported being bullied in school, and unfortunately, that data has only gotten worse in this post-pandemic era.
Yeah, we also noted that today more than 40% of students report feeling sad or depressed. I'm sure that's on the rise. 50% of parents say that the pandemic has negatively affected their children's mental health.
Yeah, I mean, we already knew it, but if you needed stats to back it up, clearly there's a mental health issue going on, and it's starting at early ages, which is terrible, and we like to see a startup that's trying to address it head on, though.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about the pandemic, but also just the growing connection to technology and loneliness, which we've covered on the podcast before. I think that these trends all tie together, and a startup like this addressing this for children, specifically within schools, I think is awesome.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so let's get into the solution here. So Clayful was created 2 years ago to meet students' needs and address the counselor shortage we just touched on. The startup tested its first pilots with its on-demand, chat-based mental health coaching platform in spring of 2022, and now works with over 50 schools to reach thousands of students nationwide.
Yeah, so a little more on the product. Basically, their customers are the leaders of the schools, decision makers like superintendents and directors of student services who can bring the platform to the student body. Ultimately, that it is paid by the schools. And so by partnering with schools, Clayful provides access and equity to all students, regardless of family means, geographic location, socioeconomic status. Right. So really an awesome solution to deliver this to any student nationwide.
Agreed. And We wanted to mention that there are already competitors operating in the space, namely Daybreak and Cartwheel, maybe you've heard of them. But Clayful's unique feature and differentiator really is that it connects users with mental health experts in 60 seconds using instant messaging technology, which allows for a real-time connection and dialogue between student and mental health coach. And on the vein of inclusivity, the platform offers 133 languages to ensure accessibility for diverse communities and is, like you mentioned, completely free for students, given that it's paid for by school districts.
Yeah, and so early results show students who participated in more coaching chat programs with Clayful during the 22-23 school year had significantly better attendance rates, actually, which is a good proxy for, I would say, probably for mental health,
I
right?
agree. Yep.
So according to the data, students with 0 chats had average attendance rate of 91%, while students with chats had an average attendance rate of 95%. A meaningful difference, not vast, but I think any improvement is a massive win for students and parents and educators alike.
Agreed. And, as a reminder, this company is still in the seed stage. They're only about 2-3 years old. So I think the stats and numbers will come as they continue to build. But at surface level, how could you not love an idea like this with a world where, like you mentioned, social media and just a whole variety of factors are making people feel more isolated, lonely, sad, depressed, whatever it may be. A company like this to come along and give everyone, individualized access to a mental health professional, I think is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about a lot, like the negative effects of technology, and we try to cover companies that are taking the powers of AI and software, whatever other technologies, and putting them towards good to combat. Like I think we talked about the cybersecurity, cyber criminals, and a platform that combats that. Like this one is kind of the same one, combating that issue of social media and isolation with technology, using it for good. I think that's our favorite thing to cover on this show. So
yeah, well
good,
said.
Good find, partner.
Thanks, partner.
All right, our second company of this week's dose is called Letterhead. They just announced $5.3 million in seed funding led by Las Olas Venture Capital and Rain Ventures. The round also included participation from Florida Opportunity Fund, among others. Now, leveraging AI, Letterhead basically helps companies or specifically marketing teams or even duos like ourselves launch, maintain, grow, and monetize a newsletter or multiple newsletters seamlessly.
Yeah, and the software works hand in hand with already existing email and CRM platforms, so it's a plug-and-play, seamless solution. We should mention there are plenty of email marketing platforms out there, and we've certainly covered a few. But what Letterhead does fundamentally differentiates itself from those, as they take existing content and magically, beautifully repurpose it into engaging newsletter content. And this could include, maybe perhaps 2 podcast hosts, something like that.
Yeah, podcast transcripts.
Yeah, people who make transcripts and are active on social media. But also, the target audience could be much bigger than that.
Right. And so the industries they currently serve today include podcasting, media and publishing, real estate, creative agencies, and event producers. So a wide range there, and I'm sure they could even expand that beyond, but probably keeping a focus for now at this early stage. What else is included with this service? So obviously the software there, the technology, but it also includes full service expertise and support, of course, with varying levels depending on the tier you choose and how many newsletters you need, from one, maybe for us, like a small team, to up to 10 for a larger company with lots of content, and even more with custom solutions.
Right, and also included is a comprehensive analytics dashboard that makes it easy to track things like ads, demographics, and ROI, right? All the metrics you're looking for when you're putting together a newsletter. Pricing is a subscription model starting as low as $97 a month and ranging up to $597 a month, with room for even more depending on, how customized you may want your solution to be. All that said, with over 1,800 newsletters running today with customers like Techstars and Salon, the startup is definitely off to a nice start, but also certainly has a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, and I think mentioning the other industries in addition to the ones I just mentioned, we think about things like sports, movies, TV. I think the opportunities are really endless. It's just all about that focus and knowing the right time to expand. And then I just think, it deserves a separate conversation besides industries, just generally speaking, large corporations selling to the enterprise, which is something I've learned a lot about in my work, my day-to-day, and how key that is to these software as a service companies for growth. And so maybe that's just finding more large companies that want to streamline their marketing costs. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of market opportunity there is for Letterhead, as really I think the investors in this round would have thought, that's how they're going to get the return on their investment, is not through selling to a bunch of two-man podcast duos that pay $97 a month, or even if we could afford that, but rather, large, maybe it's startups and then slowly to grow into enterprise. That's really where they're going to see their growth.
Yeah, agreed. And, I think this is worth a look for those bigger enterprises. I feel like there's been a big shift towards building a community and monetizing off that community eventually over time, but really just having that group of customers or potential customers that you may want to be in contact with is something I feel like we've seen on the rise a lot. And you scroll through Twitter and you see people talking about their newsletters with 1 million people and how they get paid for it and whatnot. So it's interesting. Valuable. Yeah, an interesting and valuable opportunity here.
Well, they talk about like those same Twitter people, and even I think it was mentioned in the article we've linked.
We should say X, by the way.
Sorry, yeah. X. Owned media, right? It comes down to owning your audience. Social media, you can't, those platforms aren't likely going anywhere, but they own the audience. If they go away or they change the rules or regulation, beauty of a newsletter, and I think why they're betting on this is companies can own the communication channel with their customers, with their community. So that's the big difference.
And it's another strong touch point too, right? Like use VenturePill, for instance. There might be some people who have been listening just on Spotify since day one. Love you guys.
Day one.
But there's also plenty of people who scroll across us on Instagram, or maybe they don't use Instagram, but they see us on X or something like that. So this is just another avenue to tap into that base and, again, maximize the community you're building and eventually the money that comes out of it.
Absolutely. So I'll be curious to see how they grow, and we'll certainly be keeping tabs on this one.
We will. And maybe we'll even get in touch with them once we want to get that newsletter going.
Yeah.
What was it? The Overdose?
That's good. Yeah.
All right, and wrapping up this week's dose, our third company, we have Sunnyside, an app that promotes healthy drinking habits, which just secured an $11.5 million Series A round led by Motley Fool Ventures, joined by Will Ventures, Encore Capital, Offline Ventures, and many others. These funds will help Sunnyside roll out its new AI drinking coach named Sunny, hey Sunny, which generates recommended responses for Sunnyside's team of human coaches. And we'll get a little into the trenches on that in a second.
Yeah, but first a little bit more on the target market. So 2/3 of the U.S. adult population drink alcohol. And of this population, 48% has expressed wanting to cut back on that alcohol consumption.
Makes sense.
Yeah, not surprised there. With a positive and proactive approach to building healthier drinking habits, Sunnyside aims to activate a much larger population of regular alcohol consumers, helping anyone who drinks to avoid the negative consequences of unmanaged alcohol overuse. So not necessarily eliminating alcohol use, but cutting it back, and anything in moderation is healthy, right?
Right.
To an extent. With only a small fraction of drinkers able to access help to change their drinking habits, more options are definitely needed to mitigate, and this is whopping. We throw that term around sometimes. The $249 billion annual burden of alcohol overuse on our economy and health system.
That is shocking, whopping,
yeah,
a crazy $249 billion annually. But I think it makes sense, especially the health system, right? Thinking about all the complications that can come with abusing alcohol and hospital bills and healthcare, things like that. So it makes sense, and evidently it's a large enough market for Sunnyside to want to jump in, and their investors agree. So a little bit more on the product. It's a subscription service. And so for $99 a year, Sunnyside's app features daily drink tracking, SMS reminders to keep you honest and accountable and stay on track with your goals. They also have a personalized one-on-one coaching program, as well as a community chat section where users can share their struggles or their wins with other members. overlaps with the community building we just talked about with our previous company, but nice to have a specific community dedicated to that. Additionally, there's also an analytics dashboard which calculates how much money and how many calories you saved so far by cutting back on drinking. And I imagine that's where people like what they see after a couple weeks on Sunnyside.
Yeah, to be able to put some stats behind it, like, the old saying, you can't improve what you don't measure.
Right.
And those stats matter to a lot of people, calories and money.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. You can also participate in challenges to help you stay accountable. That's the other thing, accountability with goals is key, such as 30-day alcohol reset or competing with friends to see who can drink 50% less than usual.
Yeah.
There's also a $298 a year premium subscription package, which comes with weekly Zoom check-ins with coaches and more personalized and faster response time from the coaches.
Yeah, no, it reminds me of like fitness competitions you can do on Apple Watch or Fitbit or something like that, or you and your friends are keeping track and keeping each other accountable. It's good, healthy competition.
Absolutely.
In its truest sense. And so we wanted to touch on the AI integration because that's kind of the new feature they're rolling out with this influx of capital. So Sunny, their new AI mindful drinking coach, aims to support the human coaches by answering simple questions from members. And so rather than responding to members directly, the AI coach generates recommendations that a human coach reviews before sending it as an SMS to the user. And the goal here being not to have AI replace the human component of the app entirely, but rather to make humans more effective and free up their time to do more deeper individualized coaching. Pretty similar to a company we covered a couple weeks ago called Elios Health, which again uses AI to help with the back office administrative stuff so that the health professionals can really dedicate their time doing the most value add services.
Yeah, and clearly we talk about AI every single episode at this point, and we try to pick the ones that are using it in like a useful way and not just adding it on for no reason.
Right.
I think that was something that Alicia Silberg mentioned. It makes me think back to our interview with Tyler Amundsen as well. I believe that was E69, 69. Yep. And this just makes sense, right? They're not just throwing AI on to have it in their investor update and as a buzzword, but to make the business more efficient and to ultimately be able to help more people. So that's a great use. Sunny, I mean, a great name. I've heard of plenty of names of AI assistants. Ours at Interplay is named Sam. You probably can't get better than that, but Sunny's pretty good. Anyway, Sunnyside actually recruits coaches who are longtime members and consistently successful with the program in the past. There are around 20 coaches who have all gone through an independently developed coaching certification program in partnership with a licensed counselor. So you can trust these people who are helping you out. They've been through it,
right,
and they've been certified.
Yeah, and I'm glad you noted that as well, because I like that they're recruiting coaches who are members of the app, because if anyone's going to empathize with you and the difficulties you may be having cutting back on alcohol consumption, it's them, right? So it's kind of nice to have a coach who's been in your shoes before. It's not just some totally sober for 30 years guy.
Yeah.
And actually on that note, and you touched on it earlier, but Sunnyside's kind of specifying their positioning here. They're promoting healthy drinking habits. They're not trying to make every user sober at all, in fact. Instead, they're trying to catalyze this movement of mindful drinking as a part of the overall wellness conversation, right? Diet and exercise as well. And really, the app just wants to help people change their relationship with alcohol, which I think is an important mission.
Yeah. I mean, it makes me think about like another company called Noom, or like, as you mentioned, fitness apps. Like have been so many solutions for fitness and diet. Why hasn't there been one for alcohol consumption, which is arguably like, I mean, we saw the $250 billion number, a huge issue. So I think it's an opportunity ripe for disruption and a problem ripe for a solution.
Agreed. And before we get into the impressive metrics for this company, I just wanted to talk. I think, the $99 per year up to $300 per year if you get the premium subscription, obviously that's expensive. But and we said this before with other like fitness subscription startups, but if you think about the money saved on alcohol, first of all, plus the health benefits that come along with it, I mean, I think it's pretty easy to justify.
No investment is too much for your health and your long-term health.
Right.
And so the numbers do speak for themselves. Since launching in 2020, Sunnyside has helped over 200,000 people cut out 13.5 million drinks.
Wow.
This is especially impressive considering alcohol consumption has risen with the pandemic and in recent years.
Yeah, totally. Big alcohol must be quaking in their boots.
That's what I was thinking.
At the rise of Sunny. Those are awesome numbers. And furthermore, 97% of members report drinking less thanks to Sunnyside. That's incredibly significant. Yeah. With 21% reporting a reduction in consumption of 75% of alcohol, and another 35% reporting a 50% reduction. So about 50% of people are reporting an at least 50% reduction, with almost half of that saying 75. That is the proof is in the pudding right there. That's awesome. And this one's awesome too. So members have reduced their drinking by 32% on average, cut out 1,500 calories, and saved over $50 in their first month alone of signing up. I mean, instant impact, money, calories, alcohol drop off, or alcohol consumption dropping off. I mean, it checks all the boxes, and that's a triple play of awesomeness right there.
Yeah, within the first month. I mean, if you're saving $50, I wonder how much they're using that in their advertising and in their copy, like an actual return on investment. They're going to help you, like,
pays for itself in 2 months, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going out drinking, like, if you cut out one night in the first month, right, or 2 nights, like you've maybe paid for it. I think you and I both could resonate. Not that we're super heavy drinkers, but I think everybody could get behind cutting out a little bit of it, especially heading into the new year. So I'm sure they're, going to see an uptick here as New Year's resolutions go. And
yeah, I think it's a great time to cover this company because right now we're kind of in this full swing of holiday season, which is awesome. But let's be honest, you're definitely eating a little too much. You might be drinking a little too much as well. I know, speaking personally, I usually find myself feeling a little gross by the end of the year, but that's what, prompts you to make these strong New Year's resolutions, and plenty of them. I know we were just talking about this before the show, but many of those include cutting back on alcohol and general good health habits. So this is like a perfect time to start looking into a company like this, I think.
Yeah. It's sunnier on the other side of the new year. That's right.
Exactly. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Yeah, and that reminds us, we're really wrapping up with the end of the year here. We're in the late 90s in episodes, and still going strong.
Yeah.
Still going real strong. About to hit the 100th. You and I were talking a little bit more about what we're going to do, hoping to throw a big, just absolute banger of a party
for
E100 with anybody who's in Austin. So if you're listening to this, book your travel sometime in early to mid-January.
There we go.
We'll celebrate it, but it's E100 is going to be January 5th. So
crazy. I love how the chase to 100 has aligned with the holiday season, all this good stuff going on, right?
But a true culmination.
Exactly. But probably after this amazing party that we'll host, we'll probably want to get on Sunnyside or something, or something like it. Start scaling back. But you got to celebrate the small wins, and this is a pretty big one. So
yeah,
it's been a ride.
Gear up for E100. It'll be a fun one. We've been brainstorming a little bit more. I think we have an idea. We got to put it into action this weekend. But super excited to share and celebrate with all the pilgrims and friends of the pilgrims. So
yep, looking forward to it. We'll be sure to keep talking about it and have it on the radar coming up.
It's on the radar. It's been on the radar. It's a blip.
Yeah,
but it's slowly approaching.
It's approaching. Yeah, objects in mirror are closer than they appear. We're getting there. We're about a month out right now. But in the meantime, that just about does it for this week's Dose 96. Incredible to be back in the studio. I know we were both home for the holidays for a little bit. And as always, thanks to our listeners for tuning in this week. And
potentially one of the last times in this studio.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
We'll see what we're on to the next. But
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. But anyway, in the meantime, hope you appreciated this diverse dose of startups. And we'll see y'all next week.
See y'all. Thanks for listening. Join us next week for another dose of startups and venture capital. And as always, we appreciate our pilgrims spreading the word about the show. Share with your friends and help someone else make the pilgrimage. See you next time.
she only bumps my music when she's lonely. Thinks my vibe's a little low-key, okie dokie, that's alright, but wait, I don't know how to do things different.